People at the restaurant gasped. Silverware clinked against plates as silence fell like a thick curtain. All eyes turned to the couple at table 9. There she stood, Jasmine Miller, a woman most people in the room would never expect to be on a date with him. Her long black dress hugged her wide frame, confidence glowing from her full face. Her eyes? Unshaken. Her hands? Steady as she reached for her wine glass. Across from her sat Hunter Caldwell. Yes, that Hunter Caldwell. The 32-year-old tech millionaire with a chiseled jaw, perfect teeth, and a laugh that once made a pop star swoon on live TV. Everyone in town knew him. Most girls dreamed of meeting him. And now, here he was, on a date with a woman who didn't look like any of the glamorous models he was always photographed with. A man at the next table whispered, "It's a dare, I heard." His friends dared him to take her out. She thinks it's real. Poor woman. Then Jasmine did something that no one expected. She stood up, smiled sweetly at Hunter, then said loudly enough for everyone to hear, "I know about the dare, Hunter, and I forgive you." Mouths fell open. Even Hunter's glass slipped from his fingers, shattering into 1,000 glittering pieces on the floor. And then, just as everyone thought the show was over, Jasmine pulled something from her purse. What happened next would change everything. 3 months earlier, Hunter Caldwell was bored. Billionaire bored. The kind of bored that comes after you bought a private jet just for your dog, raced supercars in Dubai, and dated women who looked like they were made in the same factory. He was lounging in his penthouse pool in downtown Chicago, surrounded by his usual gang, Luca, Rafe, and Jason. 3 rich guys with too much time, too many ideas, and 0 limits. "I dare you," Lucas said, sipping his martini and grinning, "to take the next woman who walks into that cafe across the street on a real date. Full date. Flowers. Dinner. Treat her like she's your dream girl." Hunter raised an eyebrow. "That's not a dare. That's Tuesday." Jason smirked. "There's a twist. You don't get to pick her. We do. And she can't be your usual type." Hunter leaned forward, suddenly interested. "What does that mean?" Luca turned his phone toward the group. On the screen was a woman, round-faced, plump, smiling brightly as she stepped into the cafe. Her name tag read Jasmine. "She works there," Lucas said. "Part-time barista. Plus size. Probably has no idea who you are." Hunter's lips twitched. "That's cruel." "Then say no," Rafe teased. "Chicken." It wasn't about Jasmine. It was the challenge. The thrill of doing something stupid, risky, different. Something that would shake him from the constant fog of sameness. "I'll do it," he said, already dialing his assistant. Across the street, Jasmine Miller was having the worst day of her life. The cafe espresso machine broke mid-shift. A rude customer spilled hot tea on her sleeve and didn't even say sorry. And she had just gotten off the phone with her landlord, who reminded her rent was due in 4 days. She wiped her hands on her apron and sighed. Her body ached. She was tired of people pretending not to see her, of being invisible in public, and too visible in the wrong ways. She had grown used to being the background character in other people's lives. But that was about to change. Hunter showed up the next morning, dressed down in jeans and a sweatshirt, but somehow still looking like a Calvin Klein ad. Jasmine didn't recognize him. Not at first. She just saw a handsome man who ordered a double shot of espresso and then stood awkwardly at the counter. "Can I help you with anything else?" she asked, smiling the way she always did with customers. "Yeah," he said. "You can have dinner with me." Jasmine blinked. "Excuse me?" Hunter played it cool. "Dinner. Tonight. Somewhere nice." At first, she laughed, but his face was serious, even nervous. She didn't know what to make of it. Jasmine hadn't been on a date in over 2 years. Her last boyfriend ghosted her after she gained weight during her mother's illness. Since then, she poured her heart into work, her sketchbook, and the online self-love blog she secretly ran under the name Curvy Light. She hesitated. "Look," Hunter said, leaning in slightly. "I know it's weird, but something about you just caught my eye." It wasn't a great line, but something in his voice made her pause. "All right," she said slowly. "One date. But if you're messing with me, I will throw coffee in your face." Hunter chuckled. Fair enough. The first date was awkward, but not for the reasons Jasmine expected. Hunter kept forgetting to act like he was on a dare. He listened. He asked about her art. He told stories about growing up poor before his app made him rich. Jasmine laughed, a real, full laugh, when he admitted he once set his eyebrows on fire trying to impress a girl in high school. She made him feel normal, and that scared him. The next day, he told Luca it was over. I did the dare. I took her out. Luca smirked. So, but you're not going to see her again? Hunter opened his mouth. Closed it. I don't know. He did see her again. Then again. Then he started looking forward to her messages, her sarcastic jokes, her stories about her grandma's advice. Jasmine was unlike anyone he'd ever met. Real, honest, warm. But the dare still hung over him like a shadow. And Luca wouldn't let it go. Then came a night of the charity gala. Hunter invited Jasmine. His friends dared him to take her. Take her to the gala, Luca laughed. Let's see how the world reacts when billionaire golden boy shows up with a big girl on his arm. Hunter's heart sank, but Jasmine said yes, excited. She wore a black dress she had saved up for. Her friend did her makeup. She looked radiant. People stared, whispered. Some snickered. Hunter was tense, stiff. He didn't hold her hand like usual. Jasmine noticed. After dinner, she excused herself and went outside. She looked up at the night sky and felt her old doubts crawling back. Was this real? Was she being used? That's when a waiter accidentally dropped his phone behind the hedge she stood beside. He scrambled to get it, then froze when he looked at the screen. Jasmine's face. In a group chat. Did you see her gut in that dress? LOL. She thinks she's Cinderella. The dare is still on. Poor girl has no idea. The waiter didn't know Jasmine was reading over his shoulder. He turned and saw her. His face turned pale. Jasmine didn't cry. She went back inside. She sat across from Hunter, smiled, and waited until the dessert came. Then she stood. She smiled again, sweet and kind. But her voice? Ice. I know about the dare, Hunter, and I forgive you. Gasps. Hunter's glass shattered. And then, Jasmine pulled something from her purse. A small velvet box. She opened it. Inside was a USB drive. What was on that USB would burn through the lives of everyone who had laughed at her. Everyone stared, even Hunter. And before anyone could stop her, Jasmine turned toward the stage and walked up the steps. The room went dead silent as Jasmine climbed the stairs. Each step felt like thunder beneath her heels. Her heart pounded, but her face stayed calm, serene even. The USB stick in her hand glinted under the chandelier's light like a silver secret. Hunter didn't move. Neither did his friends. All their smirks had vanished. Jasmine reached the microphone at the center of the stage. She looked down at the sea of faces, some shocked, others pretending to check their phones. Her hand trembled slightly as she leaned forward. I won't take much of your time, she said, her voice firm but not angry. I just want to show you something. The host, an older man in a navy tux, stepped forward to intervene, but she turned to him and whispered, "It's about your son." The man froze. A few people in the crowd murmured. Jasmine handed him the USB. Plug this into the projector laptop. The man looked confused, but followed her instruction. The large screen behind the stage flickered, and then there it was. A series of screenshots from a private group chat titled The Dare Club. Names beside each message. Hunter, Luca, Rafe, Jason. Laughter. Mockery. Bets. She's gonna believe it. I swear, she even bought a new dress. $500 says Hunter kisses her tonight, and she thinks it's love. God, if she cries, I'm filming it. The last message came from Jason. Who wants popcorn when she finds out it was all a joke? Gasps filled the room. The host's face turned red as he recognized his son's name, Jason. His hand tightened on a microphone, but Jasmine gently took it instead. I'm not showing this to make anyone feel sorry for me, she said. I'm showing it because this is what women like me go through. Every single day. She turned toward Hunter, her eyes sharp but not cold. I liked you. I really did. And I thought for once someone saw me, not just the weight, not just the body, but the person. But it turns out you never saw me at all. Hunter stood now, pale, speechless. Wait, he said quietly. I didn't mean for it to go that far. You could have stopped it, Jasmine replied. You didn't. She handed the mic back to the host and stepped down. The crowd parted like water around her. So people clapped quietly. Others stared in shame. And some, like Hunter's friends, simply disappeared, slipping out the back door. But as Jasmine reached the exit, someone stood in her way. A woman, older, stylish. Her eyes were wet. That, she said, was the bravest thing I've ever seen. And Jasmine, for the first time that night, smiled. But her story wasn't over yet. 3 days earlier, Jasmine sat in her tiny apartment, finishing her third cup of chamomile tea and typing a blog post under her anonymous handle, Curvy Light. She wrote about confidence, about bad dates, about the time a man asked her if she ate feelings. Her blog had over 6,000 readers, most of them women like her. Women who were tired of being told they weren't enough. That same evening, Hunter had taken her to a rooftop restaurant, twinkling lights, a jazz band, and a view of the city that looked like a dream. For the first time, she let herself believe it might be real, that someone like him might want someone like her. He had even kissed her under the stars, and she kissed him back. But something felt off, a flicker in his eyes, a moment where he pulled away, not like he was shy, but like he was guilty. The next day, she got curious. She Googled him. Of course, there were hundreds of pictures. Hunter Caldwell with models. Hunter Caldwell in Monaco. Hunter Caldwell playing poker with actors. But then she found something strange, a blog post on a gossip site from a year ago titled Inside the Dare Club, the rich boys playing with real lives. The post had few details and no proof, but it planted the seed. She dug deeper. She remembered one night he left his phone unattended while she was charging hers. He told her the password once, without thinking, when he needed her to play music while he drove. She hadn't planned to go through it, but after what she read online, she had to. She found a group chat. She saw everything. Every joke, every cruel bet, every reminder that this was never about her. She cried, not for herself, for the version of her that had started to believe. And then she made a plan. Instead of confronting Hunter right away, she acted like everything was normal. Smiled, agreed to go to the gala, bought the black dress, borrowed her friend's USB and screen recording software. She knew the venue, knew there would be a big screen, knew she had one shot to tell the truth. And she took it. Back in the present, the gala guests were still talking long after Jasmine left. Some tried to defend Hunter. Others didn't say a word. But the whispers spread like wildfire. The Dare Club was exposed. Luca, Rafe, and Jason all released half-hearted apologies the next day, blaming immaturity and bad judgment. But the damage was done. Hunter, however, did not speak to the press. Instead, he tried to find Jasmine. He called her. No answer. He showed up at the cafe. She had already quit. He messaged Curvy Light on her blog, not knowing it was her. Please, I need to explain. I messed up. I know that. But it wasn't fake. Not all of it. He waited for days. Then, finally a reply. If it wasn't fake, why did you need a dare to notice me? He had no answer. But Jasmine wasn't hiding. She was healing. She started posting about the experience, carefully, without using real names. Her blog exploded. Thousands of women wrote to her. Some shared their own horror stories. Others just said thank you. One message came from a TV producer. Your story is incredible. Want to come on and talk about it? She hesitated, then agreed. Her segment aired 2 weeks later. She didn't name anyone. She didn't seek revenge. She simply told the truth. And the truth, it turned out, was more powerful than any dare. But Jasmine's life was about to take another unexpected turn. One night, after her TV interview aired, there was a knock at her apartment door. She opened it and froze, standing there, drenched in rain, holding a white envelope in his hand. Was Hunter. Hunter stood in the doorway, like he didn't know if he should breathe. Rain soaked through his expensive blazer and dark jeans. His hair, usually neat and styled, stuck to his forehead. The envelope in his hand was bent from the water, but he held it out to her like it meant something, like it meant everything. Jasmine didn't speak. She simply stared at him, not with anger, not even with sadness, but with something far worse, indifference. I need 5 minutes, he said, voice low, trembling. If you say no, I'll leave. I swear. Jasmine leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. Behind her, The warm yellow light of her small apartment spilled out like safety. Outside, the night was cold and humming with cars and thunder. "You have 3 minutes," she said flatly. He exhaled, visibly shaken, and stepped inside. The moment he entered, he looked around like he was searching for something. Maybe proof that she was doing fine without him. Maybe proof that she wasn't. The living room was small, cozy. Soft blankets folded on the couch, a flickering candle on the table, and an open notebook filled with sketches of faceless women in powerful poses. He recognized the handwriting from a blog. She was curvy light. He had suspected, but now he knew. "I didn't come here to say sorry again," Hunter said. "I know that doesn't fix anything." "Good," Jasmine replied, "because I don't want to hear it." He nodded, reached into the envelope, and pulled out a worn, spiral-bound notebook. The pages were yellowed, the edges frayed. She narrowed her eyes. "What is that?" "It's the journal I kept when I was broke. Before I had money. Before the company. Before all of this." He opened it and read aloud. "March 3rd, another rejection today. I don't blame them. What does a chubby kid from nowhere know about apps? Still, I'll try again tomorrow." He flipped the page. "March 18th, I wish someone saw me. Really saw me. Not the fat. Not the broke. Just me." He closed the journal. "I wrote that when I was 19. Before I lost the weight. Before I made money. Back when people laughed at me too." Jasmine looked at him, still silent. "I didn't do the dare to hurt you," he said softly. "At first, I didn't even think. I just wanted a distraction. I didn't know it would be you. And once I knew you, it wasn't a game anymore. I just didn't know how to stop it without wrecking everything." He held out the journal. "I wanted you to see this. So maybe you'd know I wasn't always this guy. That I'm still trying to figure out who I really am. And what I want." She didn't take the journal. Instead, she asked, "And what is it you want now, Hunter?" He looked right into her eyes. No charm. No smooth talk. "You." The silence that followed was deafening. Jasmine shook her head slowly. "You want me now? After being humiliated in public? After being used in a group chat for sport?" "I didn't write most of that stuff," he said quickly. "I swear." "But you laughed," she snapped, voice rising. "You let them keep going. You kissed me knowing it was all part of a bet." "I didn't mean to. That's the problem," she said, her voice now cold and clear. "You didn't mean to. You didn't mean to hurt me, but you did. You didn't mean to let it go too far, but it did. And now you don't get to decide when this is over." He was quiet. For once, words failed him. "I forgave you," she said. "Not because you earned it, but because I needed to let go of the anger. For me, not for you." She stepped forward and gently pushed the journal back into his hands. "Take this with you. Read it. Remember who you were. Figure out who you want to be." Then she opened the door. Hunter didn't move right away. Then he nodded once, tucked the notebook under his arm, and walked out into the rain. The door clicked shut behind him. Jasmine locked it, then sank to the floor and cried. Not because she still loved him, but because it still hurt. The next morning, her inbox exploded. Thousands of new messages. Her interview had gone viral. Her words, her story, it was everywhere. News sites, blogs, even morning talk shows were quoting her. She had requests for podcasts, appearances, even a book deal inquiry. And in the middle of all of that, one message stood out. Subject, speaking engagement, women in tech conference. "Hi, Jasmine. We were incredibly moved by your recent interview. We're hosting a panel on digital harassment and inclusion at our annual Women in Tech event in San Francisco. We'd love for you to join as a speaker. All expenses paid, of course. Let us know if you're interested. Natalie Quinn, Program Director." Jasmine read the email twice. Then she smiled. She was going to California. That night, she boarded a flight with nothing but a carry-on, a travel sketch pad, and a brand new journal. This time, she would write her own story. The conference hall in San Francisco was massive. Rows of chairs, huge glowing screens, women from all backgrounds and industries bustling through the corridors. Jasmine sat on stage beside two other women, a tech CEO and a digital safety advocate. She was nervous at first, but once the questions began, she found her rhythm. Her voice was strong, her words honest. "I was a punchline," she told the crowd, "but I turned it into a platform." The audience clapped. Some cried. Afterward, People lined up to meet her, ask her questions, thank her. She felt seen, truly seen. As she was gathering her things to leave, a woman handed her a small sealed note. No name, the woman said. Just ask me to give this to you. Jasmine opened it. I'm in San Francisco too. Not to chase you. Just to be near the only person who ever reminded me I had a heart. H asterisk asterisk. She stared at it for a long time. And then, against her better judgment, she messaged back. You have one chance. Meet me tomorrow, 10 a.m. Pier 39. If you're late, I walk. The next morning, she arrived early. The pier was quiet, windy, the smell of salt and fish in the air. 10 o'clock hit. He wasn't there. She sighed and turned to leave. But then, Jasmine, she turned. There he was, running, out of breath, holding a coffee in one hand and a bouquet of wildflowers in the other. I got caught in traffic, he gasped. She raised an eyebrow. You had one job. I brought you tea instead of coffee, he said, holding out the cup. Chamomile. She took it slowly, then smiled. But before she could say anything else, a shout, a scream, a man running from the boardwalk. 2 security guards chasing him. Hunter turned just as the man collided with Jasmine, knocking her tea to the ground and sending her tumbling into the wooden railing. She screamed as the railing snapped, and her body tipped backward, over the edge, into the cold, dark water below. The splash echoed across the pier like a cannon shot. People screamed. Seagulls burst into flight. The bouquet of wildflowers flew from Hunter's hand as he ran to the railing. Jasmine, she had disappeared beneath the water's surface, swallowed by the bay. For a moment, everything froze, except Hunter. He didn't hesitate. He leapt, fully clothed. No plan, no fear. The water was ice against his skin, knocking the air from his lungs as he dove beneath the waves. His eyes burned. His clothes dragged him down. But he kicked, thrashed, searched. Where is she? Then he saw her. A flash of black. Her dress. Her hand limp in the water. Hunter reached out, grabbed her wrist, and pulled. Kicked hard toward the surface. Up, up, up. Finally, air. They could burst through the surface, coughing, sputtering, clinging to each other. A crowd had gathered above, yelling for help. Someone threw a life ring. Another person shouted, Hold on, we're calling the Coast Guard. Hunter didn't wait. With one arm around Jasmine's body, he swam toward a ladder attached to a nearby piling. It took every ounce of strength he had. When they finally reached it, he pushed her upward first, shouting to the 2 workers who had rushed down from a docked boat. They hauled her out, then reached back for him. As they lay on the pier, coughing and gasping, Jasmine rolled over and vomited seawater. Then she collapsed on her back, staring at the cloudy sky. Hunter crawled toward her, his face soaked, pale, panicked. Jasmine, are you okay? She coughed again, but nodded weakly. Then, somehow, she managed a broken laugh. Well, that wasn't exactly the second first date I imagined. Hunter blinked. Then he laughed too, shaky, breathless, full of fear and relief. Paramedics arrived minutes later, wrapped them in blankets, and checked their vitals. The man who had knocked in her had already been caught, apparently a thief running from security after snatching a woman's purse. He hadn't meant to hit Jasmine, just bad timing. Terrible, life-altering timing. As the crowd dispersed, Jasmine sat up slowly on the stretcher. Hunter sat next to her. I didn't think you'd jump in after me, she said quietly. He looked at her, soaked to the bone, hair a wet mess, eyes shining. There wasn't a single part of me that considered staying dry. She looked down, then back at him. Why did you really come to San Francisco? Hunter hesitated. Because every version of me that's worth saving came out when I was with you. I didn't know who I was before. I just did what was easy. But you saw something in me. And when I messed that up, I realized I'd rather be a nobody with you than a somebody without you. Jasmine was quiet. The paramedics offered to take them to the hospital. Both declined. Instead, they walked, wrapped in towels, shoes squishing as they made their way to a quiet cafe nearby. Jasmine's teeth still chattered. Hunter brought her a hot cocoa without asking. She stared at the cup for a long moment. Hunter, if I forgive you, again, this can't be a fairy tale. I don't want a fairy tale, he said. I want real, even if it's messy. She nodded slowly. Then you have to know something, she said. If we do this, it's on my terms this time. Anything, he said. You show up for me, she said. No games. No ghosting. No shame when you walk into a room with me on your arm. He placed his hand over hers, eyes locked with hers. I'll never be ashamed of you. They sat in silence for a while, sipping cocoa, wrapped in the aftermath of chaos and clarity. 2 weeks passed. Jasmine flew home. She needed time. Hunter respected that. He didn't push, but he didn't disappear either. He texted, called, shared updates, asked questions, learned things. He even started therapy, something he had avoided for years. His therapist challenged him, asked about his father, his old weight, the boys he once hated who later became his friends. And Hunter? He began writing in that old journal again. Meanwhile, Jasmine launched a project she had dreamed of for years, an online community for women like her. Not just plus size, but anyone who had ever felt overlooked, underestimated, or humiliated. She called it the Scene Circle. The blog readers came, then sponsors, then investors. Jasmine didn't ask Hunter for help. She didn't need to. She was rising, on her own terms. One night, a delivery came to her door. A box wrapped in brown paper. Inside was a framed sketch. Her own drawing. One she had forgotten she posted on her blog months ago. A faceless woman in armor, standing atop a cliff. But someone, Hunter, she guessed, had added one thing to the sketch. A crown of blooming flowers. A sticky note was attached. You don't need rescuing. You're the one with the sword. But I'd still stand beside you if you let me. H. Her heart twisted. She didn't reply right away. She needed time. 1 week later, she made a choice. She booked a table for two at the same restaurant where their very first dare date happened. She arrived early. Nervous. Would he come? The clock hit 7 o'clock. The door opened. Hunter walked in, holding a single sunflower. He smiled, genuine, unsure, hopeful. But before he could speak, someone else burst into the restaurant, running straight toward them. A breathless young woman in a blazer, eyes wide, holding a phone. Jasmine Miller, she gasped. You need to see this right now. It's everywhere. She turned her screen to Jasmine, and Jasmine's face went pale. On the phone was a video, taken without permission. A clip from the conference in San Francisco. But the caption was what froze her blood. Fat girl turns on rich boyfriend after he saves her life. Did she use him for fame? Underneath were thousands of cruel comments. A brewing storm. Jasmine felt her knees weaken. Hunter stepped beside her, jaw clenched. The restaurant fell silent. And just like that, the world had come for her again. The air in the restaurant shifted. A heavy, sour silence fell like fog over the white tablecloths and flickering candles. Diners whispered. Forks paused midair. All eyes turned toward Jasmine, whose face had drained of color. Hunter took the phone from the breathless young woman and stared at the screen. His hands trembled, not with fear but rage. He read the caption again. Fat girl turns on rich boyfriend after he saves her life. Did she use him for fame? Beneath there were thousands of comments. Some mocking, some cruel, some disgustingly personal. She planned this the whole time. She embarrassed him on purpose. This is why guys don't date big girls. Classic gold digger behavior. Hunter's face turned red. He handed the phone back and turned to Jasmine. Don't look at the comments. But she already had. Jasmine's mind spun. Everything she had worked for, her blog, her platform, her message, was being twisted, repackaged into some tabloid headline. She wasn't the woman who stood up for herself anymore. She was a punchline again, a viral fat girl story. And now, they were saying she used him. She stood abruptly, knocking over her water glass. It shattered across the floor. I need air, she whispered. Then she ran, out the restaurant, onto the sidewalk, into the cold night. Hunter followed her, pushing through the door just in time to see her cross the street and stop under the awning of a bookstore, hands shaking, breath fogging the glass. Jasmine, he called. She didn't turn, just stared at her reflection in the window. I should have known, she said, voice low. People like me don't get this kind of ending. They don't get love stories. They get laughed at, used, turned into memes. You're not a meme, Hunter said, stepping closer. Then why is the entire internet treating me like one? She snapped. He had no answer. I should never have met you, she whispered. None of this would have happened if I'd just said no. Hunter stepped beside her. If you hadn't said yes, I'd still be the guy who laughed at women behind their backs. I'd still be the coward who needed a dare to talk to someone real. Jasmine looked at him, and now, he took a deep breath. Now I'm the guy standing in front of the woman I love, praying she doesn't walk away. She stared at him, heart pounding, eyes wet. And for a second, just a second, her guard fell. But the world didn't care, because the next morning, her inbox overflowed again, but this time with threats. Emails, DMs, comments. You should kill yourself, fat pig. Hunter could do so much better. You're the reason men don't trust women. Her number had been leaked. Her home address posted in a dark web forum. Paparazzi had even started circling her apartment building. It was no longer just gossip. It was dangerous. She locked the doors, closed the blinds, called her friend Dana, crying. I don't know what to do. Dana came over that night, held her, cooked for her, reminded her of who she was. You're Jasmine freaking Miller, Dana said fiercely. You turned a viral humiliation into a movement. You faced a billionaire and didn't flinch. You jumped back into life after it tried to drown you. You don't hide now. But Jasmine wanted to hide. Until Hunter showed up. Not with flowers, but with lawyers. A whole team. He'd hired an online defamation specialist, a cybersecurity expert, a publicist, even an advocacy journalist who had written about digital harassment before. We're going to fight this, he said. Not just for you, but for every woman this has happened to. She blinked. You do all that for me? He smiled gently. You're not alone, Jasmine. Not anymore. With their help, Jasmine crafted a statement. Raw, honest, unapologetic. She didn't deny the relationship. She didn't downplay the pain, but she reclaimed the narrative. Her video went live that night. I'm not a joke. I'm not a headline. I'm not a fat girl who lucked out by dating a millionaire. I am Jasmine Miller, and I'm done being quiet. It racked up millions of views in hours. Celebrities reposted it. Influencers, journalists, activists, women. The tide began to shift, but not for everyone. Luca, Jason, and Rafe, the former Dare Club, decided to crawl out of hiding. In an attempt to clear their names, they did a podcast. A smug, smirking disaster of a podcast. And on it, they said this. We were just joking, but Jasmine, she's the one who milked it. She used Hunter to build her brand. Girl played the victim and won. They laughed, called her smart for a big girl. Then they dropped the bomb. You think Hunter wasn't in on that last speech she made? He helped her craft it. It was all PR. The internet exploded again. This time, the target was both of them. Jasmine was accused of lying. Hunter was accused of manipulating the story. And all the old wounds tore open again. Hunter called her immediately. I didn't know they were going to say that. I swear, Jasmine, I haven't talked to those guys in months. I believe you, she said softly. But it doesn't matter. They're trying to drag us both down. Hunter growled. I should have shut them up years ago. No, she said. I will. Jasmine called her new publicist and her lawyer. Then she did something bold. She challenged Luca, Jason, and Rafe to a public, recorded conversation. She would sit down with them, on camera, with neutral moderation. No edits. No rehearsals. She would confront them on their own turf. The invite went viral. Everyone held their breath. The Dare Club accepted. The date was set. 1 week. And Jasmine, she prepared like a warrior. She practiced, studied their old posts, had her legal team review what could and couldn't be said. The publicist coached her on body language. Dana helped her rehearse comebacks. Hunter stayed by her side, but he never tried to lead. And then the day came. The studio was stark, cold, clean. The host introduced her. Please welcome Jasmine Miller. She walked out in a sleek, royal blue blazer. Head high, eyes fierce. The audience, live-streamed to over 10 million viewers, was silent. Then the host said, let's bring out the men of the Dare Club. The three of them entered, cocky, smiling, thinking they were about to spin the narrative again. But Jasmine, she had come with fire. The first question hit. Did you use Jasmine for a dare? Jason laughed. It was just a joke. She cut him off. Did you laugh about my body in that group chat? Silence. Then a sheepish yes. Did you call me a gold digger after you used me for attention? No answer. Jasmine turned to the camera. I want every woman watching to know your worth isn't determined by how others treat you. Your voice matters. And when people try to shame you into silence, speak louder. The host leaned forward. Jasmine, what do you want to say to them? She looked at the three men and said 3 words. I forgive you. They blinked. But I won't forget. The room was still. And then applause. Tears. Cheering. And as she walked off that stage, Hunter met her in the wings. You were incredible, he whispered. She smiled. I know. They walked out together. But as they reached the parking lot, a black SUV pulled up beside them. The window rolled down, and a voice inside said, Miss Miller, we have a business proposition, one that could change everything. The window rolled down slowly, revealing a sharply dressed woman in her mid-40s with steely gray eyes, crimson lipstick, and a voice that sounded like she ran meetings in her sleep and ate boardrooms for breakfast. Miss Miller, she said with a warm but guarded smile. My name is Veronica Hales. I represent Constellate Media Group. We'd like to talk. Jasmine exchanged a glance with Hunter. I'm not doing interviews right now, she said cautiously. This isn't an interview, Veronica replied. It's an opportunity. She opened the car door and stepped out, heels clicking on the pavement like punctuation marks. We'd like to offer you your own show. Jasmine blinked. A what? Talk show. Online first. YouTube, streaming, full podcast crossover. You'd have creative control. We already have advertisers. We believe you're not just a story, Miss Miller. Your voice. And millions of women want to hear what you have to say every single week. Jasmine's mind spun. Hunter stepped forward. Why now? Veronica gave him a flat look. Because now the world knows her name. She handed Jasmine a sleek black folder with a silver clasp. Take your time, but not too much. Opportunities don't wait forever. She got back into the SUV, and it pulled away into the dark. Jasmine stared at the folder in her hands. Her fingers tingled. Hunter was quiet. You okay? He asked softly. Jasmine exhaled. I don't know. She didn't sleep that night. The folder lay unopened on her desk while she stared at the ceiling, heart beating like a drum. The idea of a show? It was huge, bigger than she ever dreamed, but it also meant giving up her quiet life. No more sketching on Sundays. No more hiding when things got hard. No more pretending the world couldn't touch her. It meant stepping fully into the light and staying there. The next morning, Dana arrived with coffee, snacks, and a laser printer's worth of notes. You have to do it, Dana said, pacing the room. This is your moment. Think of all the people you could reach. All the women who need to see someone like you sitting in the chair, asking the questions no one else has the guts to ask. I know, Jasmine said, voice soft. But you're scared. She nodded. Terrified. Good, Dana said with a grin. That means it's real. Jasmine opened the folder. Everything was there. Terms, creative rights, payment, projected numbers, even a mock logo. The scene show with Jasmine Miller. Her throat tightened, but she needed time, so she took a drive. No destination. Just road. Just space. By sunset, she ended up in the most unlikely place. A quiet park she used to visit in high school when she needed to think. A place where the world felt too big, and she felt too small. She sat on a bench. 5 minutes later, someone sat beside her. She didn't even have to look. I figured I'd find you here, Hunter said, holding a paper bag with her favorite jelly donuts inside. They sat in silence for a while. Finally, she spoke. If I do this, everything changes. I know. They'll come for me again. I'll stand in front of you. She looked at him. I don't want a bodyguard, Hunter. I want a partner. Someone who knows I don't need saving, but still chooses to stand beside me. He met her eyes. Then I'll be your partner. Your backup. Your number one fan. Whatever you need. Just don't go through it alone. She reached over, took the bag from his hand, and ate a donut slowly. Then she smiled. Guess we got a show to make. In the weeks that followed, everything moved fast. Veronica's team flew her out to New York for a trial shoot. The studio was modern and minimal, soft lighting, and a cozy set made to feel like a living room. She was awkward at first. But something clicked when the cameras rolled. When the first guest, a plus-size runway model from Paris, sat down, Jasmine didn't just ask questions. She connected. She listened. She spoke as if the conversation wasn't being filmed, but being felt. The episode went live a week later. 2 million views in 24 hours. The network signed on for a full season. And just like that, Jasmine Miller became a household name. But fame doesn't come without shadows. Because on the day her third episode dropped, an interview with a teacher fired for refusing to hide her body on social media, an envelope arrived at her apartment. No return address. Inside, printed screenshots, edited out-of-context snippets from her early blog posts as curvy light. Misinterpreted comments. Tweets she didn't even remember writing. The cover page read, "Who's the real Jasmine Miller?" A note scribbled at the bottom. "You're not the hero you think you are." Her hands went cold. Dana read over her shoulder and muttered, "They're trying to discredit you. Classic tactic. But it'll work," Jasmine whispered. "It always works." That night, she met Hunter on the studio rooftop. She told him everything. He paced, furious. "This is deliberate. Someone's trying to destroy your image." "Why? Who?" He paused. "I have an idea." "What do you mean?" Hunter pulled out his phone and opened an email. It was from an anonymous tipster. It had come earlier that morning. Subject, "Luca's got a new plan." Body, "He's behind the smear. He's funding a fake watchdog group to go after Jasmine. I work for him. I couldn't stay quiet anymore." Hunter had dismissed it at first, but now it made sense. Luca had gone silent since the last confrontation. But silence wasn't surrender. It was setup. They needed proof. Jasmine called her lawyer, her cybersecurity consultant, even the advocacy journalist she'd worked with before. It became a mission. Track down Luca, trace the funding, follow the digital fingerprints. And after 10 days of digging, they found it. A fake nonprofit called Fair Voices Alliance, registered under a shell company in Nevada. That shell company? Owned by a private investment group. One of its silent partners? Lucas Salvatore. Busted. Hunter looked at Jasmine as the evidence rolled in. "We have him." But Jasmine shook her head. "We don't expose him," she said. "We invite him." Hunter blinked. "Come again. To the show. Live. No script. No safety. I'll ask the questions." "That's dangerous." "I know." Hunter hesitated. "He might lie. Twist it." Jasmine smiled. "Then I'll do what I've always done." She turned to face him fully. "I'll tell the truth louder." And just then, her producer ran in holding a phone. "You need to see this." She turned the screen toward Jasmine. Luca had just gone live on Instagram. He was smirking, and behind him, a photo of Jasmine and Hunter, blown up, marked with the words, "The real scam. How a plus-size girl and a billionaire played you all." And Luca said, "Catch me on her show next week. If she's not too scared." Jasmine's eyes hardened. Hunter's fists clenched, and the world held its breath. The countdown began the moment Luca's livestream ended. In less than 7 days, Jasmine would face the man who tried to destroy her. Not with fists, not with lawyers, but with truth, strategy, and a microphone. Social media lit up. Hashtag Jasmine versus Luca. Hashtag The Scene Show Live. Hashtag Who Scammed Who. News outlets called it the confrontation of the year. The plus-size powerhouse versus the old money manipulator. But Jasmine didn't care about headlines anymore. She cared about control. Control of her own story, her voice, her legacy. This time, she wasn't going to be a passenger in someone else's game. She was going to drive the whole damn thing. The studio prepared like it was a presidential debate. Security was tightened. Fact-checkers were brought in. Lawyers hovered like sharks just beyond camera range. Everything was set for a live, unedited, no-holds-barred episode of The Scene Show. Jasmine wrote and rewrote her questions. She didn't want drama. She wanted truth. But privately, when the cameras were off, she was scared. Not of Luca, of what he might say, what lies he might tell that could spiral into doubt again. She'd built something powerful, yes, but glass castles shine brightest before they shatter. Hunter noticed her tension as they sat in her apartment the night before the live show. "You don't have to do this alone," he said gently. "I know," she replied, "but I have to be the one in the chair." He nodded. Then I'll be the one right off camera. She smiled weakly. Wearing your suit like a secret weapon. Exactly, he said. And if he gets out of line, you'll what? Body slam him in front of 20 million viewers. Hunter grinned. I was thinking more like unplug his mic. They both laughed. For a moment, the fear faded. But deep down, they both knew tomorrow wasn't just a show. It was war. The morning of the live broadcast, Jasmine wore a black suit. Sharp cut, elegant. The same one she wore when she first confronted the Dare Club on stage. It had become something of a signature, her armor. She arrived at the studio early. Luca, of course, arrived late. He strolled in with sunglasses on indoors, a smug smirk, and two assistants trailing behind him. He greeted Jasmine like an old friend, arms open. She didn't move. Still mad, he said, grinning. Come on, Jazz. It's just TV. It's my life, she replied coolly. He winked. Even better. The crew counted down. 5, 4, 3, 2. The scene show with Jasmine Miller, live. Jasmine opened with grace and poise. Tonight's episode is unlike any we've done before. My guest is someone I never expected to sit across from again. But sometimes, growth means facing the people who try to tear you down. Luca smirked as the camera panned to him. Glad to be here. Jasmine didn't smile. The questions began calmly. She asked about the Dare Club. He denied some parts, admitted others. He spun things, made himself sound like a misunderstood genius who was just doing what bored rich guys do. Then came the turning point. Luca, Jasmine said, did you fund a group called the Fair Voices Alliance? He blinked. Never heard of it. She tapped her tablet. The screen behind them lit up with documents, signed by shell companies, email chains, bank transfers. His name, his approval, his digital fingerprints. He froze. Jasmine leaned forward. Why create a fake nonprofit just to discredit me? Luca tried to recover. We were just keeping media honest. You were blowing up in, getting more attention than you. Jasmine said. That's the truth, isn't it? He shifted in his seat. The girl you mocked. The girl you used as a dare. The girl you laughed at because of her body became something you couldn't control. Luca laughed nervously. You're spinning this. I mean, come on. We're entertainers. You don't actually think people buy into this woke queen nonsense forever, do you? Silence. Jasmine turned to the camera. Every woman watching knows a Luca. A man who hides cruelty behind charm. Who calls bullying banter. Who breaks people for sport and calls it business. She faced him again. I was never your joke. And I'm done being your story. The audience erupted. Online, the stream peaked at 28 million viewers. Luca tried to interrupt, but his mic was cut. Studio policy for confirmed falsehoods or manipulation. He sat there, fuming. And Jasmine? She stood. I'm not the fat girl who lucked out. I'm the woman who stood back up. The camera cut to black. The fallout was immediate. Luca's remaining ventures pulled out. Sponsors dropped him. Interviews were canceled. The Fair Voices Alliance was shut down under investigation for fraud. Jasmine? She soared. The scene show was renewed for 2 more seasons in a single day. Viewership tripled. She received an invite to speak at the UN Women's Council. Her story was being developed into a book. She had gone from humiliated barista to media powerhouse, and she'd done it without changing who she was. Still, none of it felt complete. Until one night, back in Chicago, Hunter met her on the rooftop of her old apartment building, the one she'd been afraid to return to since the scandal broke. She looked out at the city. Same skyline. Different woman. Think they're still watching us? She joked. Let them, he said. She turned to face him. And then he got down on one knee. No flash. No cameras. Just him, her, and the stars. I don't want to fix you, or change you, or stand in front of you. I want to walk beside you, Jasmine Miller, for however long you'll let me. He pulled out a ring. Simple. Gold. Elegant. She didn't cry. Not this time. Instead, she whispered, It took me everything to love myself. He smiled. And I'll spend the rest of my life making sure you never forget how. She took his hand. Yes. They kissed. Far above a city that once tried to tear her down. But Jasmine? She'd already won. And the world would never forget her name. But just as the camera of life began to fade on their perfect moment, a phone rang. Hunter's. He frowned. Sorry, Give me a sec, hello. Jasmine watched his smile fade. His eyes widened. He looked at her, stunned. What is it? She asked. He paused, then said, They're making a movie. About us. Jasmine blinked. A movie? Hunter still held the phone to his ear. Yes, a major studio. They want to option the rights to our story. They said the pitch already went viral inside the company. Jasmine gave a small laugh, half shock, half disbelief. You mean the rich guy dares fat girl, but she flips the whole world on its head story? He nodded. Exactly that. She took a step back and looked out over the city skyline, heart thudding. This wasn't just some passing offer. It was the final stamp on the whirlwind she had been swept into. A girl from a cafe in Chicago, now starring in the story of her own life. Her story, her version, not the dare, not the scandal, not the punchline, her truth. The next week, Jasmine sat in a polished glass office across from two women in suits, studio producers who had been following her story from the beginning. They spoke fast, they smiled big, and they had visions of casting A-list actors and red carpet premieres. We want this to be real, one of them said. Raw, not just a love story, but a survival story, a transformation story. And of course, with your creative input. Only if I help write the script, Jasmine said. They blinked, then smiled. Deal. That same night, Jasmine and Hunter toasted the deal on the same rooftop where he had proposed. This time, they had a moment of peace. No media, no interruptions. Just two people who had burned through the worst and come out of the ashes, standing taller. You still think you're the same guy who took that dare? Jasmine asked gently, sipping from her glass. Hunter looked out at the city. No, that guy thought he was doing something harmless. That guy didn't know what real courage looked like. He turned to her. Now I do. She smiled. Good, because you're about to be played by an actor with way better cheekbones. He laughed. I'm praying they don't cast someone taller. Months passed. The movie script was approved. A rising young director signed on. Someone who had once emailed Jasmine after her scene show debut to say thank you. They cast an up-and-coming actress to play Jasmine. Someone who had grown up watching Jasmine's interviews and reading her blog posts. Someone who knew what it meant to live in a world that demanded smallness from big voices. The real Jasmine worked closely on set, guiding the emotional arc. It was surreal, watching someone play out the worst and best moments of her life. Watching herself fall in love, be humiliated, find her strength, and rise. Hunter stayed by her side the whole way. Not as the lead, not as the hero, as the partner. And in the meantime, the scene show continued to grow. More voices, more stories, more power. What started as her fight became a platform for others to rise to. Survivors, creators, fighters, dreamers. The movie was released 2 years after the original Dare. Title scene, it debuted in select theaters before hitting streaming platforms worldwide. Within a week, it was the most watched film on the platform. Critics called it the most emotionally raw love story of the decade. Social media exploded. Young girls posted selfies with the hashtag #AMScene. Schools screened the movie in assemblies. Corporate offices began revisiting diversity training inspired by the film's impact. And Jasmine? She watched the final scene alone, sitting in her apartment with Hunter curled beside her. The final line of the film was spoken by the actress playing her. They thought they could make me a joke, but I wasn't the punchline. I was the plot twist. When the credits rolled, Jasmine wiped her eyes. Hunter kissed her forehead. You did it, he whispered. She smiled softly. No, we did. In the years that followed, Jasmine's life never returned to normal, but she built a new kind of normal. A life with purpose, one rooted in love, justice, and power. She married Hunter in a small ceremony by the lake. No paparazzi, no drama. Just friends, family, and the words, no more dares. Just choices. Her wedding dress? Custom designed. Curves celebrated, not hidden. She gave a TED Talk titled The Day They Dared Me. It became a most watched talk that year. She co-founded a mentorship program for marginalized voices in media. And when asked if she'd ever run for office, she smiled and said, maybe. But first I want to make more space for the next girl who gets laughed at for taking up space. And when people asked if she ever forgave Luca, she would say, I forgave him long ago. That's how I took back the power. But she never forgot, and she never stopped speaking. Because Jasmine Miller had once been the girl they dared into a joke. But in the end, she became the woman they could never silence.